Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kara Bustos with Sif by Kara. Today we are having a small round table. We thought we were going to have Kara Andretta from Kara Couture Cakes, but she did mention that her little munchie guy was probably needing more of her assistance than she can offer us today. So if she jumps in, that'll be great. We'd love to have her join us. In the meantime, we have Nathalie Sorensen from Lucy Cake Designs. Hi, Nathalie. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And we have Jamie Hoffman from Yuma Couture Cakes in Arizona.
Hello, guys.
So today, I'm going to go over a couple of things because we are live. I want to do a little small tutorial on how you can join the conversation. And let's see. Okay, so what you're going to see now is Jamie. We'll get Jamie off of that. Okay, so you see me. This is the window for the live YouTube. As you can see here, it says be a part of the conversation. Click here to join. So I'll click on that. Can we see that, guys? Uh-oh. Where did you guys go? Live stuff. Okay. So then we're into this window. Oh, wait, I'm not seeing. And you should be able to type in a question on the side here. Do you guys see all this?
I see it. Uh-huh.
Okay. So like, hello.
There she is.
I can't type well. Question. And then you submit it. And it should go right in. But it's not really working for me right now. But that's how you get into the conversation, guys. I hope that was all explanatory. Okay, so I'm going to move back. Stop this. Oh, Kara's here. Hi, Kara.
Hi.
That's Kara, guys. We told them that Munchie might have needed more of your assistance today. So
he did. I was actually finishing up a project that I'm very, very overdue on, and I just got it done, so I couldn't stop myself any sooner.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. We'll give you a minute while you settle in and get your photo. So about a week ago, in the Facebook group that we all admin, Cake Noobs, we asked you all to be brave and submit your cake photos for us to sort of red Sharpie, but in a nice way. We wanted to give you guys some of our tips of how we, what we would suggest to you and how to maybe take your cake to a whole nother level or more clean and pristine look. You guys flooded that feed with cake photos, and I mean, wow, I didn't realize how many people would want to do this. So thank you. So we have lots of photos. Obviously, we're not going to get to all of them. We just can't. And a lot of them have the same things that need to be cleaned up, so to speak. So we're not going to get to all of them. Some of them we will. Also, I just want a disclaimer. We are not cake gurus to everything. This is our opinions. This is what we have found works for us through our experience, our failures and successes. Most of what we're going to tell you is probably a lot of more of preference. We will give you tips on what we think you should do. That doesn't mean you need to do them. These are just suggestions. That's all they are. Take them, leave them. All we do want to ask that you do is just be open to listening. Okay, so let's get started. I know, Kara, you wanted to go first, but are you ready to go first? Okay. Well, Jamie, would you like to jump in on the first cake?
You want me to do the first one? Sure.
Sure.
All right. Let me get my screen share.
And remember,
you are the red Sharpie guru, that's for sure.
Yeah, and let me apologize in advance because I thought I was going to be using a different laptop today that had my Sharpie program ready to go. So I've kind of got a ratchety little system going here. But I think that everybody will get the point anyways, so I'm just going to go for it. So one of the cakes that I picked, this was submitted by Corrine Shalvo, I believe is her last name. I'm probably butchering her last name, but, you know, Corrine, if you're out there, I picked one of yours, and so I'm just going to dive right in. So it's, personally to me, this is a well-rounded project right off the bat. I especially like the monogram. The letters are nicely spaced. They're proportionate to each other. It looks like a cutter was used for the template. It's beautiful. Doesn't have any raggedy edges. The two bows, those are just about perfect. You know, there's not a lot on this cake. So this is one where it's just very simple touches that'll bring this up, you know, to a whole nother level and add some value to the final project. And they're very simple. First one jumps right out at me. Uncovered board. A thin layer of fondant covering this whole surface right here in either this blue or this green color would have been pretty. I probably wouldn't have chosen white. That would have been probably white overload for me. So I would have gone with the green, I think. No, I would have gone with the blue. And then there would be a contrast with this green bow. But point is, any color at all that matches the cake. And then I would have applied a ribbon around the edge, and that's easily done. People use glue sticks, hot glue guns. My favorite's double-sided tape. Wrap it around, have your the point where they come together on the back of the cake, and then for an added touch, you could make another one of these bows out of that ribbon as well, and put that maybe off to the side or right back in front, aligned with the two bows, and that would have been a nice touch. And the other two things that I'm going to point out, it's tapered. The tier tapers in here. See, it should go basically straight up and down. And this should have been the edge right over here, and then the edge probably would have been over here as well. And that's just slowing down and taking your time when you're smoothing to make sure that your bench scraper is either straight up and down or your spatula is straight up and down, whatever you're using. I'm not going to get into that, but that'll help get rid of this taper mark here. And then your tier will be straight up and down and nice and flush. And then the last thing is the chevrons look a little stretched out, and that can be remedied by either adding some Tylose to your fondant before rolling it out and cutting your shapes. Not too much where it makes stiff gum paste, but just that it'll hold its shape a little better. And then when you go to move them, they're not going to warp on you so bad. And I'll bet somebody else will have a suggestion if we come back to this one too. If anybody knows what the wax paper transfer method is, Google that. That might help. Otherwise, that's my first one. And thank you, Corrine. I hope that made sense for everybody. And next time we do it, I will have my red Sharpie program up, and we'll see some red Sharpies. So, okay.
Can I just add to this cake photo that you have up here, Jamie?
Please do.
I know a lot of people do have a tough time with getting their cake sort of squared and with those straight sides and everything. And I know Jamie will tell you, you don't need gadgets. You just need practice. And you really do. You just need to practice and practice and practice again.
Yeah.
However, sometimes with all the practicing in the world, it's just not works out for you. So, you know, I use acrylics. I don't know if anyone else on the panel uses acrylics or have used acrylics. Oh, Kara does. Woohoo. I love them. I don't need them. I honestly say, thank God, I don't really need them. However, they just seem to make my life easier and faster, and I use them. So look up acrylics. I have a couple of tutorials on them if you can't seem to find one you like. Anyway, who's next? Kara has said she's ready to go, so I'll hand it over to you.
You're going to have to remind me real quick how to do the screen share. I'm sorry, guys.
To the left, green box with white arrow.
Got it.
Pull it up, and you should have an option of what you want us to see.
Okay.
And then make sure you click Start Screen Share. While Kara's doing that, real quick, if you're able to get into the chat room, you can send us a live question. Again, we're not going to be taking on random questions. So if you have a question pertaining to what we're talking about, sort of cleaning up your cakes, then please post those questions. All right, Kara's ready.
Alrighty, we're going to start with this super cute dog. I really do think this cake is adorable, and it's a great option if you're not comfortable with doing big 3D sculpted standing things. It's still three-dimensional. It's not truly a two-dimensional cake. A couple things that I would suggest. Some of the decor is kind of flat on here, like the ears. The bow is a little floppy. Do that, a day or two ahead of time and get a nice popping up bow. This right here is really beautiful, and it's got dimension, and it looks as it should. So some of these other things would, match that really well. Just a little bit cleaner over here on the ends of the paws. And guys, I gotta say, and this is not aimed just at this cake. This is aimed at everyone. Finish your cake boards. You did this adorable, adorable cake. Get rid of, don't do this. Don't do this. Please don't hurt my heart and do this. Get at the very least, get a foam core board or cover this with some kind of, fondant, contact paper, make it thick enough that you can run a ribbon around the edge. You did all this beautiful work, showcase it, truly. Just take some time to showcase it. It makes such a difference. We eat with our eyes first, and the first thing, they're not remember the insides of this. They might remember it tastes good. They're going to remember what it looked like. And your hard work deserves to be remembered beautifully. I'm going to move on to my next cake. Sorry, guys, I'm going to totally jump, take this over for a minute. I don't know how long I have with Munchie. This cake, Frozen, huge, huge theme. And there's
Kara,
so much. Yes?
Can you make the photo larger, possibly? Zoom in a little bit to make it's a little small on our screen.
Yeah.
That's about as big as I can do. I have a super wide screen. That's why you're getting that.
I think it's great. That's much better. Thank you.
Okay. So this is Frozen, and I know there's so much we want to get in there to really, really represent the movie, but sometimes too much is too much. I find some really neat things. I don't know if this is isomalt or gelatin, but I love this replicating the castle in the back. I like the piping because it does actually feel like snow. And the colors, they nailed this blue. It's perfect. I would take off the inedibles here, the gems, and I believe this is coconut sprinkled over top. You've already got the snow going on here. You got the snow going on here around the borders. You don't need to add that as well. It can be a little redundant, and it can start to feel cluttered. Sometimes, truly, guys, less is more. This is on the right track. It's headed there. Sometimes it's hard to know when to pull back and stop. I can fuss forever, and it's good to have a second set of eyes in my husband to say, hey, stop. Because otherwise I'll keep going. But those would be, again, cake board. But this one's almost not visible, so it's not as much of a detractor from the cake itself. Next cake, let me see if I can blow it up a little. There we go. I gotta say, I love this cake. I love everything that's going on here. I only have 2 suggestions on this. Only 2. Well, 3. Okay, 3. First of all, kudos to that basket weave buttercream piping. Seriously. Nice, nice work. The leaves, they're beautifully colored. They're very accurate. They're beautiful gradiated. They're a little bit thick. I don't know if they were done with fondant or gum paste. If it's gum paste, it is strong enough to do it thinner, make them a little bit more lifelike. I love delicate leaves, truly, and it can elevate your piece. The other thing I would mention is maybe doing some shading on the pumpkin in these areas where it has the little, the little butt cheek crevices. It would just, I mean, you can see depth in it because of light and shadow, but you can really accentuate that and really make it look very plump and very, give it a lot of character. I'm all about adding color to just, it's beautiful in the leaves. Carry it through up here as well. The last thing I want to mention about this is not the cake or any of the decor. This cake is super, super, super cute. Photographs. Document your work beautifully, guys, because this deserves to be remembered. This is a portfolio piece. Truly it is. And a good photograph on a good background. The cake board is finished with a ribbon. Kudos. Yay. But this angle isn't the most flattering. It does highlight this, but man, you got some good buttercream skills going on down here. Highlight that too. And same thing, the wood grain table, it's a little muted and it kind of overtakes, and it competes with this color in here. Consider a backdrop, even if it's foam core or just a roll of white paper. It can be very inexpensive, but it can make all the difference in the world to how you remember your cakes. My next one, this one. This is a great example of a covered cake board, of a non-intrusive backdrop, beautiful colors and beautiful composition as well. The only thing I would suggest is working a little bit on these fine details in here. Can you guys see what I'm doing? Let me pick a different color.
Yes, we can.
I can.
Yeah,
if you can change your color, though, yes, that's better.
These fine details in here. It's a little bit wonky, a little bit off. Same thing up here. Straight edges, they make all the difference in the world. I love that this bow is three-dimensional and it's really popping out. These polka dots, I would do just a little bit thinner. When I first did polka dots on a cake, I did the same exact thing. I made them too thick. I thought it was really necessary to make them noticeable. I think that's just a beginner's thing, honest to goodness, because you really don't need them that thick. But other than this, I like that it has a message and that it's not overcomplicated and that it's not overdone. There was a lot of really well thought out stuff going on in here, including the little ruffles around the, I don't know if this person's in the U.S. or in overseas, but I'll call it a pram. But you got some hand painting in here. It's really nice. Just take care of these little details, and it'll take this cake to another level. My final one, it's actually a triptych. These are all from the same person, and I can definitely see a style here. I can see a style in each one of these, and I'll forgive the background here because clearly this person gets it between these two over here. And sometimes we just can't avoid getting, a less than ideal photograph and reproduction. I love the details. I love that this person is unafraid to take on, anything from cosmetics to shoes to Hello Kitty to sculpted pillows, a completely dragé covered tier, and all of these details in the baby girl cake. But it's a lot. It's a lot to look at, and I don't think it was just one design. I think this is very much this artist's style. And while I really do appreciate and like these cakes, and I could dive in and just look at them for a while, which is kind of cool, it can be overwhelming, and sometimes it can just be too much. And if you learn at times to rein that in, to pull back, maybe the Hello Kitty was a great one because it's kind of girly, and granted, it's a 40th birthday, but this feels like a teenager's bedroom to me, like they're having a slumber party, and they're doing their makeup, they're doing their hair and their nails, they're getting all girly, and everything's kind of all over the place. So I kind of really like this. I like this as busy as it is, but that's not necessary, and it doesn't necessarily translate well in every design you do. So having a style is good, but being able to have a little bit of variety is also very beneficial. So
That Hello Kitty cake was probably for Lisa.
Which Lisa?
The Lisa.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Lisa loves it.
She loves all those details, which are fun. They're fun to make, but I also agree with you, Kara, that sometimes it's too much. You've gone a couple of items too many. But they're really great. And well, also, let me kind of just, if we look at the, she moved it on us.
No, I'll put it back. I'll put it back.
Oh, put it back, please, because I want to talk about the pillow cake. Can we talk about how really greatly structured the pillows are, but sort of maybe all of the extra details or maybe too much of the gold painting, it kind of takes away from us looking at how beautifully the cakes have been structured too. So, but overall, I really think the cakes are great. If this particular artist would just rein in a little bit, but that's our opinion. So, if the customer loves it, the customer loves it. But that's our opinion. Nathalie, are you ready to roll with some photos? And thank you, Kara. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Oh, I think we lost Nathalie.
Oh, I'm right here. Can you see me?
Yes. Are you ready to go with some photos?
Sure. Let me, do you want me to just go one after the next, or?
Yeah, you can, I think, or maybe just do two, and then I'll jump in, and we'll go back to Jamie. And
sounds great.
Kara, jump in with some other suggestions on the cakes we showed, too.
I will.
Great, guys. All right, let's see if I can do my screen share. Watch out. It's always fun when it's...
Well, while you're doing that, just going back, I'm not seeing any questions yet, so if you're having... I apologize if you guys are having a hard time getting into the question room. Maybe I should just do a tutorial just on that. But we are here to take your questions, and I think Nathalie is ready to go.
All right. Are you able to view it, to see my screen? Okay, so my first cake here is a buttercream cake, and I felt like, there's a lot that's beautiful about this cake. We have gorgeous butterflies that are just... well coordinated with their colors. I see that maybe it's a wedding cake with lavender being the accent color for them. It looks solid to me. It looks very structured. So they did a good job with their height, with the height of their tiers. A couple things that I would maybe work on is, you can see, we see that the buttercream is smooth on the first and second tier, here. But when you go to, here we are, we're red, baby. Here we go. Take a look at these, very smooth, and then you look at this particular one here, and you see a lot of textured, that rustic textured buttercream, which I felt like, at least to me, to my eye, it was a little bit confusing as to there wasn't consistency in the cake frosting or icing. I would maybe work a little bit on the border piping just to make it a little bit thinner or smaller. Would have neatened the cake a little bit. The flow of the butterflies felt like, what I do, and again, it just depends kind of what you're going for. But with things like that, if it's birds or butterflies, I actually just Google images of how they fly in groups, and I just basically go with that as far as placement to make it flow a little bit better, so that maybe we can start here and kind of go that way. Might have been a little bit more pleasing to the eye. Definitely photography and the board come to mind next. I see that this might have been, I see some flowers in the background, so maybe this was already at the venue, I'm not sure. I personally would have tried to photograph my cake before I got it there, because you never know if they're already ready for that setting that you want. Like Kara said, after all that hard work, I sure as heck want to walk away with that photo. And lastly, it's that board. A couple things that concern me about the board. It's obvious that it's not a finished board. I like the finished board look. It isn't for everybody. I feel like it polishes the cake a little bit better. So that would be the first thing. But secondly, this looks like a cake card to me rather than a cake board. And when you have a 3-tier cake, I worry about stability. I worry about this bending, and then what happens to your cake. So one thing that I would recommend is try to invest in either a cake drum. I mean, even for a 3-tier, you can get away with a cake drum. MDF. There's a lot of foam core maybe stacked up, or even if you stack up 3 of those, it would give you a much more sturdy base. I would have been scared to carry that around because after all that hard work, again, it's really a glorified piece of cardboard that's underneath it, and I feel like it might have not been strong enough to hold up the cake. So other than that, again, you look at it, it's visually pleasing to the eye. Just a couple things to neaten it up. So second one, if I can figure out how to, here we go. Don't save. So here's another one. Can you guys see this clearly? Do you want me to enlarge it?
Yeah, if you can make it larger so we can. It's so cute.
It's adorable. I had to really dig deep for this one. Here we go. Where's my resize? That's how basic I am, I feel. All right, this might be a little bit better.
Yes, it's better.
So with this guy, I actually really loved it. I'm a topper girl. If you guys know anything about my work, I'm all about my toppers. So this screamed at me. I loved the height of the tiers. The fondant work looked really clean. Loved the waves and embellishments and all that beautiful stuff. I picked it specifically for one little detail that it's kind of an opportunity for a tip. So often, if you're making people, making characters, eye placement, the way their eyes look at you is such a key detail. And it took me for my own toppers, a couple of creepy ones, to realize that if I centered my eyeballs, it looked like they were surprised or they were scared or whatever their issue was. So I was taking a look at these toppers and look at the detail. I mean, she or he rocked it. I think we only have Jared as the guy in our group, so I'm going to go with she. Those toppers are absolutely adorable, but again, if you take a minute to maybe have your eyes looking up or looking sideways or looking in a different direction than straight center, they will look like they're having a lot more fun and they're happier characters. So again, that would be that's the reason that I picked this cake, is just to kind of talk about toppers and eye placement. And other than that, I mean, there's a lot going on with the cake. Maybe a little less would have served it, a better background for the photography. But really, it's those guys right here. Let me try to make it thicker for you to see. It's this right here that I was talking about. This one's actually way better, but this guy was the reason that I picked this cake. Do you want to take over, Kara, or
can you go back, Natalie, to the buttercream one? We had a question about that one.
Oh,
and maybe
sure.
Jamie can jump in and answer the question.
Sure.
Y'all know Jamie's a buttercream queen, so.
Oh, what's the question? I don't see. Is it?
As soon as she gets back to the buttercream cake, yes, I'll read the question.
Okay, I see it.
It says, "Good morning, afternoon, ladies. With this cake, would the textured look work better if it were done on the middle tier with the top and bottom smooth all over, or would you suggest staying away from that altogether?"
I want to see it again.
Are you not sharing my screen?
There we go. So me, you want to know what I'd do?
Yes, with Jamie.
Okay. If presented with that design and asked, it keeps going away though, and asked what I would do, I would probably most likely do the middle tier with the textured effect, and I would probably make the texture marks a little bit bigger, just to stand out a little more, because if you're going to texture it. Otherwise, why even deviate from the smooth tiers? So I would do the middle tier, the textured, and I would work a little bit more on making sure the other 2 tiers were of equal height. Again, if they're supposed to be different height, then really make that stand out, because then you almost run into, gosh, those don't look tall enough, or somebody didn't check their height when it was actually intended. So if that makes sense, really, I try to exaggerate details like that, just so the effect is intentional and perceived as intentional.
That
makes Does that answer that?
Yeah, can I jump into on this? My personal preference would be to do it all smooth or all textured. Unless you are clearly going with different styled tiers, then you would determine that. But since the cake is overall one theme or one look, I would choose one or the other, either all textured or all smooth. And I would get rid of the borders if I was doing a textured cake.
Yes.
And if you really practice really, really well, you can get away with a smooth buttercream cake without borders. I know Jamie is not a fan of borders. I am not a fan of borders unless it's literally a part of the design.
Yeah.
Right.
But
nobody likes them. Well, maybe somebody likes them.
The borders?
Yes.
I think borders were done because people's edges on the bottom weren't good. So we throw these piped borders, or we throw up little gumballs, or whatever they call those, rolled fondants.
Right.
And you almost have to now build the border into the design of the cake. And if you can just continue to practice, possibly you can get to the point where you don't need borders, unless, again, it's part of the design of the cake and it makes sense.
Yeah.
But thank you. I'm going to jump in and there's another question, but I'm going to wait for Jamie to do it because she has a particular cake. I think it was you, Jamie, that had a cake that had powdered sugar all over it.
Want to save that?
Yes. Can you get ready for that one? Okay. Can we see my cake?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Let's make sure I'm in my window. Hold on. There we go. Okay. All right. So a lot of dittos on this cake. Obviously, the board and the background. We need a different board. We need a different board on this cake. We need a nice drum, a thicker drum. You can even leave the drum white if you buy the ones that are already coated with the white paper. And then put a nice pink ribbon around it would be great. Obviously, the background, as Kara Andretta said about the photography of your cake speaks volumes. You can make literally any cake look 50 times better if you just photograph it better. Overall, if this cake were on a thicker drum with a nice ribbon on it and positioned on a pedestal with a nice background, this cake would be a very decent cake. Some of the things, however, I would work on would be, what is this called, a zebra? Is that a zebra look we're going for with these stripes?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
This needs more stripes. We're lacking in the zebra stripes. So if anything, I would say roll your fondant out much thinner, and using cornstarch, or I think Jamie said something about Tylose in your fondant, so that it doesn't stretch on you so much, and you can roll it out thinner. Lot more various of stripes and all going in sort of in the same kind of direction. Take a look at an actual zebra when you're making a zebra cake, and sort of have that next to you on your on your iPad or whatever as you're decorating, and just sort of get a feel of how many. It can be time consuming.
Thank you.
But it's worth
Zebra
it.
print.
it's worth it if you were to do it. The bows are they're not the same in size, so maybe just making them more uniformed, or even maybe making, I would say maybe just a solid bow. But again, that's just preference. That's it, guys. Overall, I think that, you know, the cake is a really good start. It's a good start. Whoever cakes this is, you're doing a great job. These are just things, and as you guys continue to make cakes, you're automatically going to get better. It's just inevitable. I mean, I've never met anyone that's continued to do cakes get worse. So that's that, and we'll go over to Jamie.
Kara, if I could just on that cake or any of them on the borders, you guys, I used those fondant balls or borders or whatever when I was starting out and I couldn't roll my fondant the way I wanted to, neat and perfect that I wanted to. That was my crutch, and I used it, and it made my cake look neater. I made them maybe a little bit smaller, but it kind of went with, you know, make details to hide what you want to hide, the rule of decorating. So for now, as you're coming along, it's fine, but I promise you, if you keep doing this, your borders are going to be perfect. In fact, Jamie Hoffman, I have to plug that in, has a great tutorial about how to have perfect fondant bottom border, or really not a border.
Yeah, you don't need a border.
Lower rim. Right, exactly. How to remove borders, how to never ever need borders again. But that was kind of a great tutorial. She shows you what she does, and she's a master of clean cakes that are borderless. So highly recommend it, but keep at it. I promise, I wanted to jump the gun. There are no shortcuts in decorating, sadly. So.
All right. Thank you for that, Natalie. All right, Jamie, are you ready? I think we have time for maybe a couple more cakes, ladies, and then we'll end today.
Okay, and the one I picked next, actually, to go along with James's question, right? That's why you wanted me to do that one next?
Yes. You go ahead and read the question for us, Jamie.
Yeah, and then I would like you guys to chime in on that too, because it's a carved cake. Just, I'd like to hear what you guys have to say too. Okay, so one of the questions is from James, and he says, "Hello all, my question is regarding powdered sugar on the fondant after applying it to the cake. I see cakes that look so clean and the fondant looks vibrant, but mine looks dull. I end up steaming my cakes, which I am trying to get away from. Any suggestions?" So, to go along with that, I am going to show the cake that I picked to go over next. And so, James, here's a cake with powdered sugar marks all over the fondant board. This was submitted by Lee. And first thing I'm going to address is that fondant board. After you're all done putting your cake together, you know, if you didn't take care, didn't take caution and watch your finger marks or put down, you know, some paper towels or something to protect this area right here while you're working, this is exactly what it's going to look like. So what I personally would do in this situation is take a dry, poofy, soft, like blush brush that you would buy at Target or anywhere that has makeup supplies. And I'm going to lightly brush that first, just by itself, just the dry brush. And then I am going to go and fill my airbrush up with some vodka or Everclear or whatever clear spirit you guys airbrush with, if you airbrush at all. If not, you'll just have to Google that later or find me and I can explain it. So I'm going to load my airbrush up with vodka and I'm going to spray the rest down, taking care not to let it pool and soak in areas. It does dissolve fast, it does evaporate quick, but not that fast. And that's pretty much going to eat up all of those marks. And where it doesn't, I'm just going to have to worry about what to do then, if it even matters. In this instance, if I had to peel that fondant off that board and start over, it's a very basic shape the cake has. So I might just X-Acto knife all the way around here, peel it off, and put a new one down, if that was the shape I was going to be making. So that should address your powdered sugar marks on the fondant question. And now, Lee, what I was going to comment on your first attempt at a carved car is, first of all, it's adorable. It's really cute. It has more of a whimsical look, which I tend to appreciate more than reality sometimes. Because if you were going for cartoony and cute, and that is not at all meant as a dismissal of skills, it's adorable, cartoony and cute. It's great. If you're going for realism, that's where I'm going to say get Mike McCary's DVD on carving cars, or study somebody that really knows their stuff with those. I am not the world's biggest expert. I know what I would do. I would either get Mike McCary's DVD, or I would study somebody else that does that a lot. Because you've got this kind of style down. Like I said, cute and whimsical, that's pretty much right on, other than cleaning up the board. Maybe rounding off the wheels a little bit, kicking it up a notch using some gelatin windshields would be cute. And maybe, I know what Kara's going to suggest, so I want her to...
Which Kara?
You.
Oh.
I know what you're going to suggest.
I suggest, when doing cars, and it doesn't have to take a lot of skill, is to get foam core boards.
Yep.
And color black if you can find it, or you don't have to. And I think they come in different sizes. Figure out which size would be best for you. You can probably even stack a couple of pieces, but you're going to run a thinner, it's going to be a lot slightly thinner and wider and lengthwise piece of strips of foam core, and you're going to stack them. But be careful, however, when you do that, that you don't tip your cake over either left or right. So you definitely want to make the boards that's going underneath that the car to be wide enough to stable your car, but not so thin, or not so wide that you can see it, and not so thin that it's going to topple your car. So work with that, balance your cars. What I'll do is I'll lift your cake up, and then you can get thick piece of black fondant or modeling chocolate with your circle cutter, and you can make the wheels, and you can just prop them right up against the cake. You can glue them with royal icing, but I personally like melted chocolate. It's quicker, seems to dry faster. So Jamie's got on me. Little details like just raising your car up off of the board is good, and then you can anchor your cake before maybe you put the fondant on with some skewers so that it's anchored into your board. If you have a thicker foam core base where your cake is sitting on, you can anchor that right through, and you should be and put chocolate on that little piece of foam core so that the underneath, obviously your car should be sitting on a piece of cardboard. That it glues straight onto the piece of foam core that's helping to lift your car up. I hope that made sense. I felt like I was rambling.
That's exactly what I was counting on you to explain.
So, Jamie, did you or anyone else have any suggestions on the car? I agree with the whole Mike McCrary thing.
I agree. When you're, I would say thinner strips for your silver. What do you call the inside of the tire? Oh my God. I'm having a girl moment. What is it?
Wheel well.
That one. The wheel well. Thinner, what I do if I'm making a smaller one is I actually score it. If you have a Gerber daisy cutter, I actually score it with that, and I either paint it or I use an extruder to extrude the thinnest, whatever size you want, so you can have that perfect strip, and I lay it down. But for the most part, a thinner one lends itself to a lot more. I guess if you don't want realism, you wouldn't, but a thinner one would absolutely make the look. And then the tires themselves, maybe have them just kind of what Kara said. You lift it and then have them protrude a little bit out or under. You could actually see the tire a lot better. But I have to say, for your very first carved car, you rocked it. Love it. Love the fact that you made the frame for the windshield.
Is everybody else done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait, Kara, you have something?
Okay.
I just wanted to mention about cleaning up like cornstarch and the 10X, I'm sorry, the powdered sugar on the boards. Really, there's a lot by the wheel there, and sometimes, you know, it's no matter what you do, you're almost going to see something there, because sometimes you have to use so much alcohol or even water, it's going to leave a mark. You really need to get accustomed to working with less. And when you put it down, don't leave it in clumps. Get used to running your hand over it to smooth it out into a thinner, finer coat. But try to get accustomed to these areas where you're going to see things. Get accustomed to using less. It makes a lot less cleanup in the end. And I use Everclear, a grain alcohol, and Q-tips. When I was an intern, I was the queen of cleaning up cakes. So they always gave me the alcohol and the Q-tips.
Whoa.
Little OCD there, but yeah, just.
Who did you upset to get that job?
What's that?
Did you upset somebody to be on that assignment for a while?
No, actually, it's just what I always went to. They were very, very, very fussy about finalizing and details and things being just perfect just before it went out the door. So there was a lot of attention paid to that. But other people didn't necessarily have the same attention to detail or willingness to get it right. So I just always gravitated towards him. Before I knew it, somebody mentioned something, and I guess that's kind of what they came to know me for, was perfecting the cakes at the end. So.
Yay! That's good.
So there's a question on here. Laura says, can someone clarify which gold and silver paints are edible and look like most like gold and silver? And I'm going to say you need to go check out our friend and colleague, Liz O'Merrick.
Yep.
Oh, look at here. Her book.
Handy. So handy.
This is, all you cake noobs and even cake professionals and experts, this is a must-have book. And it's probably backwards and you can't see the words, but it's Artisan Cake Company's Visual Guide to Cake Decorating. She addresses most of all the stuff we're talking about today. This is a great little Bible to have. Oh, look, Natalie has hers too. We love you, Lizzo. But to answer the question about edible silvers and gold, she has a whole blog about it.
Mm-hmm.
Go check out her website, Artisan Cake Company, and scan her blogs. And she answers it all. She does experiments with you. She talks about it. I mean, you can't. I can't even tell you. So just go see her. One last cake.
Oh, I need to address the rest of James's question about steaming cakes. He ends up steaming his cakes, and since we're talking about making our cakes look nice, I want to address steaming cakes. I know a lot of people agree with me on this, and some probably won't, and I don't care. I'm just going to say it. Unless you're making something that's patent leather or is like a shiny hamburger patty or something that is supposed to be shiny, there's no need to steam your cake. It does not look nice. I'm going to tell you guys, it doesn't look nice.
It looks wet.
It looks wet. It looks like it's melting. Yeah. And I see a lot of people, talking about steaming the cake like, that's what they're supposed to do. I do know who started that, and shame on him.
He might have watched a little too much TLC.
So yeah, no more steaming the cake. There's lots of ways to get marks and stuff off the cake, unless it's patent leather or something shiny, and then steam away and make it look beautiful.
You know what else that does, though? That creates wet, melted sugar on the outside of your cake.
Yeah.
Fuzzy. Anything in the air is going to stick to your cake, and you will not get it off without damaging your cake. No need to do that. I said something about that on intern. I'm like, oh, do we steam the cakes? And the look I got, he knew who I was referring to, and man, I kept my mouth shut the rest of the day.
Good.
Don't do it.
I will say too, I actually, like Kara Andretta was saying, when you put that fondant on and you're using cornstarch or powdered sugar, you want to keep rubbing. You want to make sure there's no clumps left behind. I think Jamie said something about get a blush brush and brush it all off. I put my cakes in the refrigerator after I'm done. And that little bit of condensation that comes from taking the cake out usually evaporates any of those marks. So it works. So instead of steaming it, I just let the condensation that naturally occurs after putting a cake in the fridge take care of all of the sort of the dullness of the cake. It brings a nice shine. Another tip, and I don't know if my panel will agree or not, I have on occasion brushed Crisco shortening all over my cake. And that gives you a nice shine too. Just be careful that when you do that, that you make it smooth. You can see brush strokes. So you want maybe run a nice clean Viva paper towel, we like with Viva, and sort of brush over your cake when it's dry, not when it's condensating. Okay, unless someone else really wants to show off a cake, I want to end today with one of the cakes. Did anyone want to talk about it?
I have a couple. I don't know if you want. Has everybody gone through their cakes?
I'm good.
I've only done one. If we have time, but I wanted to end on this particular cake.
Well, that's a beauty right there. There it is.
And come down a little bit.
That's pretty.
Okay,
I
so
like that one. That's perfect.
it is perfect, but she really wanted to know how to make it better. And so I thought, well, let's give her a go. And here, again, this is mine, and if anybody else wants to jump in, these are my personal preferences. Otherwise, I think the cake is great, and I think whoever got this cake is happy. But if you want to make it better, and again, my only opinion, I would say your fondant is a little bit thick on all of the details, like the rolled roses, the stripes, the crown. You could really go for, if you can work with trying to get thinner fondant, I think it'll just, my opinion, I think it'll just sort of take your cake to that next level. I think the crown, the roping on the crown is a little thick and a little chunky. So maybe picking a different design that looks more thinner. I know I've been using the Wilton Baroque mold. You can make beautiful, quick crowns using that mold. That might be a suggestion. And then the stripings, they look a little imperfect, so that might be adding more tylose or adding more cornstarch to your fondant so that they don't stretch and come out of place when you're adding them to your cake. But honestly, sweetheart, this cake is really great, and you did a fabulous job. Does anybody else have anything they want to say?
For this one?
With quilting on the second tier. I can see it just barely, and I don't think it's a screen thing. I don't think it's a photographic thing. It's very, very, very subtle. What I can see, your lines are coming together beautifully. They are equal, and they are not wavering at all. And a beautiful quilt is a beautiful quilt. Deepen those lines and make them really feel like texture. I like that there's texture on that tier to contrast with the flat two-dimensional decor on the bottom tier. Really, really, impress that quilting a little bit more.
Yes, agreed. I didn't even see the quilting now that you say it because it's too light. Did you want to show us something, Jamie?
I did. Going back to her tiara, it really does look like just about the one thing that needs attention. And I was going to show, I just did a Google search for some of my tiaras, and I have one that was kind of thick, like hers was, thicker extruded gum paste, I'm assuming is what she used.
Yeah, probably.
Am I screen sharing? You can see.
Yes,
okay.
We're seeing you right now.
So, there's one of the thicker ones,
I think
and it just takes a little time to cut things right and just check both sides and make sure they're lined up and don't look squished. When I do mine, here's a couple that I do. I actually use an extruder, and I form them around like coffee cans or something that are taped down with parchment paper. And just make sure the bottoms are real even. And you can see I pieced together really I mean, there's hardly any contact points, and these stand up. And they're nice and sturdy. That's just extruded fondant, and some of these are just kind of floating, from the backs of these. But anyways, so that's how I do my tiaras.
And that just gives example of, what I was saying about just making not so chunky and not so thick.
Yeah.
Okay. We're like literally out of time. Maybe I don't know if we'll be able to do this particular episode again of cleaning. Hopefully we'll be able to come back and do some other shows, round tables. I hope this was informative. Let me see if there was any quick questions. Eddie says to Kara and Andretta, your son is adorable.
I was muted most of the time.
We don't mind. We just really appreciate you, Kara, for taking the time out of your work schedule, your mommy schedule, and sitting down with us. Your experience is invaluable, and we just appreciate
you.
Can you tell us where you're about to be, though, in a week or so? Where are you going?
I am going to Cake Fest in Lafayette, Louisiana, not too far from New Orleans. It is going
jealous.
It is going to be a hoot and good time. I am teaching on Friday. I'm teaching my Skull and Crossbones class. Let's see here. This cake. Let's see if I can pull it up. This cake.
Yes, that cake is amazing. I wish I could go. Can somebody give me a plane ticket?
You and me both, Kara. Let's carpool.
Oh, if it wasn't so far. If it was in Vegas, we would be there, Natalie.
Yep.
I'll be teaching this, and I'll be judging with Cake Revolution, the group that I'm a part of. We'll be doing some of the more contemporary categories, the sculpted category, the gravity-defying category, and the non-cake confectionery creations category. So
can you guys see your cake? Because I'm not seeing it. Are you guys seeing your cake?
It's a blacked out screen for me.
We're not seeing your beautiful cake.
I think she left. All right.
No, I'm here.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh well.
We'll pull it up and we'll say goodbye to Natalie if you can search for it while we're doing that. Natalie from Lucy Cake Designs in San Diego, thank you so much for joining us and giving your amazing tips and experience. We appreciate you giving up your time as well. Thank you so much. And we've got people that said
thank you for having me.
She loves all the tips from Doria. She says extruded gum paste crowns are her nemesis, but she loves all the tips.
Oh, come talk to me then.
Call me. Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing. Ladies, if you guys are ever interested, in a little plug for all of us, if you're ever interested in private consultations, we all offer, I believe we all offer, are able to offer online via webcast private consultations. You'll have to individually reach out to us and find out our pricing. But Natalie does figure, so hello, if you have figure trouble, call up on Natalie. And Kara, she just does it all. And Jamie as well. Jamie's got some tutorials that just came out. Thank you, Jamie, for being with us today. Really appreciate your time as well.
That's fun. I like that. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yes.
Me too.
Somebody needs to get Lizzo in here.
There it is. There it is. There's Kara's class. Oh my God.
There it is.
That's
cool.
took me forever.
There it is.
I remember, Jamie, Kara, when you were posting shots of this cake and how you stayed up all night doing this cake. I remember that.
Yeah. It was, you know what? It was actually a labor of love. This is probably the first cake that I really, really went over the top, challenged myself, and I enjoyed every minute of it and didn't get frustrated. Probably
beautiful.
The only cake. But it was for my son, so there was a little less pressure, but a little bit more expectation.
It's amazing. Have fun at Cake Fest, Kara.
What's that?
Have fun at Cake Fest.
It is going to be so much fun. Oh, my goodness.
We'll be there with you in spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies. Well, that's our program for today. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time, Again, we are your admin team, along with several other like Avalon Yarns and Lizzo Merrick. We are your, and Yvonne, she's going to be, then we're going to be at Cake Fest. You guys better get to Cake Fest. Oh my gosh.
They're all going but us.
Yes, but us. So you can stay hang out with us over at Cake Noobs, CakeNewbs, over at, I think the link is under the description in the YouTube page. Come join us over in our group. And until next time, happy cake eat, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.